Greetings! Welcome back to Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel. Let's tie a fly. So the fly, I'm going to give you a little history about the fly that I'm tying. This is my Flash Minnow. I love using this for warm water fishing. And I want to give you a little bit of backstory on it. I started, if you see, this is a minnow fly. It's got bucktail, it's got hackles, it's got flash, it's got eyes, it's got peacock herl, it's got everything in the right spot, the right colors all in the right locations to be as accurate a minnow imitation as possible. And flies like this will catch fish. But a number of years ago I was doing an experiment. I wanted to see, it's like, okay, the complicated fly catches fish. What happens if I take something off? So I went to a farm pond and I was playing with some crappies and I started fishing with a smaller obviously I wasn't using a big old thing like that for panfish, but I was using a fly in this sort of size class, kind of like these guys. But it was every bit as complicated as that. It all the works. It was as perfect as I could make it. And it caught fish. So I went home, I took some stuff off, and I made a simpler version. Went back out the next day, and it caught just as many fish. And so I took some more stuff off, and went back and tried it the next day, and it still caught fish. Bass. The pond I was fishing was mostly bass and crappies. Okay? So, catching all of those things. And I kept doing that until I identified, I was like trying to say, what is the key thing that's actually catching the fish? And it turned out to just be the flash. Okay? So, till I was done, what I had was the flash and a little bit of red. On this one, the red, I tied it with red thread, and I just left some of the tag ends of the thread extend back through the flash so that there's a little bit of extended red. This one, it's got a little bit of red hackle and red thread, and I didn't leave the ties pulled back. I do think that red helps a minnow imitation, having a little bit of red on there. It looks like flaring gills, okay? And oftentimes minnows, when they are in ill health, will kind of flare their gills out. It's kind of like us when we're panting for breath, right? So having some of that red near the head end kind of imitates that. And I do think that that is a good thing to have on a bait fish imitation. Also, it's an aggression color for a lot of fish. So what do the fish, in air quotes, think it is? I don't know. Fish are stupid. But I do think that it helps the situation. So after this trial and error, it ended up coming down to just some form of weight, and on these it's a bead head, something that's a little bit red, whether that's just the thread itself or a little bit of hackle fiber, and the flash. And that's what it boiled down to. Now this fly is really great for really anything in warm water. You can tie this in any size for anything that is an aggressive predatory fish. It will really slay the sockeye. It will catch perch like crazy. It will catch bluegills. It will catch bass. It will catch chain pickerel. It will catch any of these warm water species. And it doesn't have to be that big. Okay? One of the things I'm going to do in this fly tying series is I am going to tie things on like the outsized large end. It's very difficult to film tying teeny tiny things, especially when my fingers are bigger than the fly. So I'm going to use larger examples, larger than my average tying to illustrate what's going on. So the first thing we must do is we must select a hook. Now for this tie, I am deliberately choosing to use not a fly tying hook to make a point. This is a common bass fishing rubber worm hook with the bent shank. Okay? This is a deliberate choice for this video because you don't have to have a hook which is officially labeled for fly tying. You just need to have a hook. And when all I'm doing with this simple minnow is attaching a little bit of weight and the flash all at one point, that little bit of straight is more than what I need. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now, again, I'm tying things on the large side, so I don't have a bead head that's appropriate for this hook. So I'm going to use some dumbbell eyes. All of these are readily available. Okay. The dumbbell eye is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a little dumbbell-shaped piece of metal. You could use a few wraps of lead wire, but I try to stay away from lead as much as possible. And I'm going to put the dumbbell eye here. This hook is heavy enough, I'm not convinced that I could flip it. Okay, so I'm going to put the dumbbell eye here, tie it on, tie it in, tie it off, and then I'm going to put the rest up on the top, right there. Now, the first thing that you must do, obviously, is get your thread attached to the hook shank. And because this is small and it's going to be in my fingers, I wanted to show you what I'm doing with some rope and a stick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold, the vise will hold the hook. To do this with the rope and the stick, I have to hold the thread as well. And I'm going to hold the line against the hook, wrap it around, and then come back and catch it. And then wrap over itself. Okay? Just like that. And then this is strong. I am pulling with all that I can right here without giving myself a rope burn, and it is caught. Okay? So this is how we are going to attach the tying thread to the hook shank. And I'll do that one more time. So I'll try to keep it all on your side. Okay? So I'm going to hold the thread against, come around, and then catch it, and then wrap it over. And that will secure the start of that lashing. So let's do that for real. We have our tying thread in our bobbin. If you want to see all these tools, the previous video went over the tools to use. And I'm going to hold the thread in my left hand, the bobbin in my right, get it right at that intersection, make an X, catch it in the X, and then wrap it down over itself. Okay? My thread is attached. Okay? Now, to attach the dumbbell eye, this is going to be a little tricky to see, but I'm just going to hold it against the hook shank. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to wrap figure eights through that little neck. Is it zoomed in, hon? Okay. I'm going to wrap figure eights through that little neck there. It's going to have to be in my fingers. There's no way around it. Because these are just kind of fiddly, but once I get it sort of kind of attached and started, I'll be able to show you a little bit more. Okay. There I have two figure eights in each direction. And now I'm just going to go 2, and then turn, and 2, and turn, and 2, turn, and 2. Okay, just alternating direction, figure 8 wraps until it's well secured. Now, without anything else going on this hook shank, that's going to be able to twist a little bit. That's okay. It won't come off. But that's our dumbbell eyes. Now for this stage, that's all that we need to do. So to finish off the thread, I'm just going to cross it and make a little half hitch. Tie the half hitch down. And I'll do this 3 or 4 times. Okay. There is a tool called a whip finisher that you can purchase. You don't need it. You can finish off the fly simply with half hitches. Okay. But what the whip finisher does is basically the same thing, where you get a half hitch. Now you see this, the thread is crossed in front. It's in between, the tying end is in between the standing end and the hook. And then I can wrap over that multiple times with the fingers. This is called a whip finish. It is a more secure attachment than the half hitches, but it takes quite a bit more practice, and you don't have to do that. You can buy a tool that helps with that, but again, you don't have to do it. You can use just 3 or 4 half hitches and then snip your thread. Now, whether that's half hitches or with finished, when you start getting fish in their little teeth, even smaller fish have like Velcro teeth that will fray your thread ends. So we're going to put a little lacquer on there. This is another case where you can go to a fly tying supply shop and you can buy official, what they call head cement, lacquer to put on these wraps. Or you can do what I do, go to a cheap store and spend $1 on some cheap clear nail polish. Advantage, nail polish. So we'll put a little bit of that nail polish here on the threads, and that will lock them in place so that it doesn't unravel. Now, ideally I would let that nail polish dry before continuing, but I want to get this video completed. So I'm just going to go ahead. Some of the materials will kind of stick into the nail polish a little bit. We're not going to worry about that. So I just attached the thread, same way as before. Now I'm going to pick one of these saddle hackles. These saddle hackles are nice because they're nice and long and they're easy to grip. If you have trouble gripping them, this is where your hackle pliers comes in. You can attach that to the tip. And now this will give you a handle to manipulate the feather. You won't need it on these long hackles. And I don't want the fuzz. I'm going to strip off the fuzz from the bottom. And I'm going to take this and hold it and now wrap over it. You want 3 good non-overlapping wraps. Did a 4th there. Snip that off. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to run my fingers down it to kind of muss it up a little bit. You know, see it's getting stuck in the lacquer. That's okay. Now I'm going to put 3 wraps of this on. Is 3 a magic number? No, and it's just about right for this sort of thing. If you want a little more, put a little more on. If you want a little less, put a little less on. Okay. So there's my fibers. Now I'm going to hold this out. I'm pulling it toward you, the viewer, and I'm going to wrap over it 3 times. This is where having the tying vise really is handy relative to trying to do all of this just in hand while you're holding the hook at the same time. Now snip the feather, and we've attached some red saddle hackle. Okay. Now I want to gather this and bundle it toward the bottom. This is called a throat. I'm going to pull it down with my fingers. I'm going to wrap back over those fibers a little, which will gather them down. This does 2 things. One is it directs it down toward the bottom of the fly where I want it to sit. But also, because I've caught those feathers underneath the thread, if fish teeth, and again, warm water fish, I could be catching pike or pickerel on this, right? So if the fish teeth come in, they can actually cut these hackle fibers, the stem, the feather stem, fairly easily. But if I wrap over it with the tying thread will catch those little fibers and hold them in place. So even if the stem gets cut, it's not a big deal. Now I'm going to come to my flash, and this is literally Christmas tinsel. Okay? Nothing fancy. Literally Christmas tinsel. I'm just going to pick out a bundle about half the thickness of what I want the finished fly to be. Snip it off. Okay. Get it in the middle with my fingers. Place it against the hook shank. Now, a trick with this, pull it up, catch it in your fingers, pull it down, come around, and now pull it out of your fingers by pulling up. Making that loop and catching it like that for the first wrap will help bundle your material neatly. Okay? I'm going to fold it over itself, double the thickness. Okay? And now just kind of hold it there and wrap it smooth. build up a little thread so you have a nice smooth head there. Okay. Tie these quick. This is a fly to tie quick and use hard. And not be sad if you catch it on a rock or if a pike bites you off. And now, just like before, I'm going to do my half hitches. Okay. Snip the thread. And lacquer the head of the fly. And there you go. You have a flash minnow. And these things are really effective. And I'm not just using Christmas tinsel out of a sense of cheapness. I really like it for these flies, for this pattern. Specifically because it's so wiggly. So what happens is, when you're not stripping, when the fly is in free fall, it'll fly nose first, and the tinsel will fan out. And then when you strip it, the tinsel comes together and pulls through the water. And then it fans out and dives, and then pulls. And then it fans out and dives, and then pulls. And that just flashes and pulses light through the water. And it's really game fish will go for it because of that. In fact, I like these better than the more accurate, realistic minnow imitation because they have a lot more movement in the water. So sometimes simple is better, not just simpler. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got something out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you for the next one.